Hello, this brief presentation is going to go over the start and stop rules specifically for the WISC, and you'll notice that I've included a snippet of the WISC 4, one of the subtests within the protocol of WISC 4. If you're using WISC 5, they will look different, however the same concept applies. In our previous discussion we talked about basals and ceilings, so I want to go ahead and piggyback on that and talk about start and stop rules. So we have a subtest, similarities here. So I've got a little picture, a screenshot of the similarities subtest, and you'll see here that this is the protocol. So this is your booklet to record student responses on, to make your notes. It also serves as a kind of a visual guide to help you go through and score each one of the student responses. So similarity is pretty much one of our more straightforward subtests. So I'm just going to zoom in a little bit here so that at the beginning of each subtest you can get an idea of the start and stop rules at the very top. So it's going to tell you the rules for that particular subtest. You need to always review the rules before the subtest, before you administer, because they can change. The start and stop and discontinue rules are not the same for every subtest within one big test. So you need to make sure that you're aware of the subtest start and stop and discontinue and reverse rules before you ever even get started. So let's take a little example on the similarity subtest. So you will see here, the very first thing that we're going to do is we're going to read where we're going to start this particular subtest. So it says here ages 6 to 8, you're going to start at item number 1. And then ages 9 to 11, and I'll pan back out in just a minute. Ages 9 to 11, we're going to start at item 1, and then 12 to 16, that's item 3. And then ages 12 to 16, we're going to start at item 5. So we have different start points depending on the age of the student. Then the reverse rule is ages 9 through 11, you're going to score a 0 or a 1 on either of the first two items given. Administer the preceding order in the reverse order until 2 consecutive perfect scores are reached. So I know that can be confusing, so let me just go out here a little bit more so you can get the whole idea. And we're going to go back to the reverse in just a minute. And then your discontinue, you stop testing after 5 consecutive scores of 0. Okay, so we are going to pretend like we're going to administer this test to a 7-year-old. So a 7-year-old, we know it from up here, and the test has also given us some directions, some instructions here on the side. So if we have a 7-year-old, they're going to fall within this range. Everybody gets the sample item. So you're going to be reading in your test manual on similarities test administration, but you're going to see that everybody's going to get the sample item, whether they're age 6 through 16, sample item. There's no score. We're just getting them used to what this test is going to be like, this subtest is going to be like. So if we're going to test a 7-year-old, you see that we're going to start with item number 1. Okay? And then we're going to start with item number 1, and we're going to administer item 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way through the subtest until they have 5 consecutive zeros. So if they miss 5 in a row, you stop the test. So if we're testing a 7-year-old, we're going to start right here, administer number 2, number 3, say they miss number 4, so they get a 0 here, and they miss number 5, they get a 0 here. But then number 6, they recoup and they do well. They get number 7, but they miss number 8, number 9, number 10, number 11, number 12, and that's when you discontinue the test. After they have met the discontinue rule, you count up all of the scores of 1s or 2s, and you report those in the appropriate box for the raw scores. Okay, so if they don't do 5 consecutive zeros, then it's not discontinued. You keep going. Say for example we have let's say a 10-year-old. If you're testing a 10-year-old, what is your start point going to be? Your starting point is going to be number 3. okay, because this is the first item for ages 9 through 11, and we're testing a 10-year-old. So we're going to start here, but this is after we've already administered the sample. And so we're going to go on to item 3 because we have a 10-year-old. What happens if the student, the 10-year-old, gives you a response that's either a 1 or a 0? Well, our reverse rule says that ages 9 to 16, from this point down, if they give you a 0 or a 1 on the first items, you have to reverse. And then you have to go back up to this one. And then you have to go back up to this one. Okay, so that's called the reverse rule. So ages 9 through 16, that's 9 through 16, if they miss their starting item, you have to go back and test backwards until they reach an item of a score of a 2, and then that you go down. Then you start testing. Okay, I know you're going to have questions about this, and we're going to cover them, but I just wanted to make sure that you guys understand the concept of starts, reverses, discontinues. So this is just one subtest. There's going to be a lot of other subtests who have totally different rules. Some of our subtests say discontinue after 3 consecutive missed items. Some of our subtests have everybody starting at the very first item. Some of them don't have reverse rules at all. So you have to read the start points and the stop points on every single one. Just remember, if say we are testing a 12-year-old, what is your start point for a 12-year-old? Well, it's going to be number 5. If this is and I do this because it's always good to circle your start point. You want to just get your pencil and make sure that you circle your start point. Once you circle your start point, if they do not get a perfect score on this one, we're going to reverse. And we're going to reverse and say they've got their first perfect score on number 2. Then we're going to go to number 4. Then we're going to go to number 5. Then we're going to go to number 6, and we're going to keep going until we have 5 consecutive zeros. And when you're counting up the raw scores, even before the start point, you need to make sure that you need to make sure that you count all the items correct, even above the start point. So that gives you a little bit more information about start and stop points. So what I want you to do is take a look at, let me see, I'm going to pull one more over really quick because I want you to look at this one, picture concepts. So here's another subtest that I pulled out. Immediately you can see start points, you can see that we have a reverse rule, and you can see that we have a discontinue rule. Okay, so same concept applies. Find the age, circle the number of your start point, and test going forward. It says here that everybody ages 6 to 16 gets sample item A and B. Again, these are just practice ones. If there are any issues, if the student just absolutely does not understand and cannot complete this test, you'll find that out in A and B. And that way you don't have to proceed with giving that test. That's very, very rare for that to happen. Okay, I'm going to open up a discussion board in Blackboard in just a minute, and I want you to post any questions or scenarios that you have after listening to this discussion, and I anticipate there will be some. So let's use that discussion board for clarification. Thank you.